Hello, everybody. My name is Nick. I am the CFO and head of strategy of Pangea Chat. So we're experimenting with something exciting today, and that is interviewing each other. So the person to my left is the CEO and founder of Pangea Chat. And so he's going to ask me some questions, I'm going to ask him some questions, and everybody's going to get to learn a little bit more about Pangea Chat. So, just to start off, Will, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how Pangea Chat got to where it is now?
Sure. I'm an instructional designer from the US. Studied applied mathematics and instructional design at Columbia University. I started working on Pangea Chat when I came to Spain for a woman and started learning Spanish. I started with leading gamified practice apps, which can give you a great gamified, bite-sized experience with learning a language, but they're typically decontextualized. They're not within conversation. Transfer is an issue. Once you've mastered the app, it's questionable whether you can actually have a conversation. Another method is talking to friends, but conversation can be daunting and hard to get into. So Pangea Chat came about as a way to combine these two things, to let you have a conversation with the assistance of translation and artificial intelligence, and then give you little practice activities using your conversations as the content.
So essentially, you're learning content that's relevant to you. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Which nothing exists out there that does that
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool, I think.
yeah,
Nice. So yeah, I would say similar sense too in how I got involved in Pangea Chat is that I also was extremely dissatisfied with all the other types of language learning that was out there. And so I tried everything, like you name it. I tried language exchanges, I tried talking with friends, I tried the applications that were out there, and also just had similar struggles. I feel that the applications were not contextualized to me. So, I was learning things like the cat, crosses the road when I'm a dog person, for example. And so it's not things that are relevant to me. So just Pangea Chat, I also completely resonated with the contextualized learning that it represents. And it's really just the first thing that has made sense to me from a language learning perspective. So really identify with what we're trying to do. But walk me through, from A to B, how exactly Pangea Chat works.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, Pangea Chat allows you to start learning a language by doing from day one. So the moment that you start learning a language, you can start using that language with a friend. So let's say that I'm learning French. I can start talking to a friend in French using in-chat translation. So I can write in the language that is my native language, be it English or Spanish or Chinese, and it's going to translate to French. So I can start communicating from the very first day of learning the language, instead of typical methods of learning to conjugate verbs from a textbook for 2 years, before I'm able to actually try to have a conversation. I can actually jump into that conversation from the very first moment. So that gives me some exposure to it, as well as the ability to immediately start communicating with whoever was my impetus for starting to learn French in the first place. Be it a love interest or an employer or a special friend. And then I get little practice activities using my conversations as the content. So the chat is going to give me some exposure to the language. It's also going to give me some content, which I can then start to practice. So the way that works is that we use natural language processing software in order to parse the messages that you're sending and give them back to you as audio that you can listen to and then reconstruct the sentence for. We will jumble up the sentence and ask you to put it back together. We'll give you the sentence in your native language and ask you to retranslate it. And we're working towards things like speaking activities, conjugation activities, identifying words from the sentence based on pictures and stuff like that. So essentially, any sort of activity that you can think of from your textbook or from leading language learning applications, you can get that sort of thing in Pangea Chat, but the big difference there is using your conversations. So you're practicing content from your own conversations.
No, it's super, super exciting. I mean, it's an amazing idea for sure. I obviously think so. You think so. The question is, like, why now? So why is this all possible right now?
Yeah. Well, it was not possible 10 years ago because we didn't have the sort of natural language processing capabilities that we do now. So with advances in neural nets, we're able to understand with computers and translate whole sentences. Back in the very beginning of machine translation, we would do it word by word. Up until a few years ago, we would do it phrase by phrase. But now we've actually got systems powerful enough to translate whole sentences, which leads to dramatically improved accuracy. We've also, in addition to translation, got systems that are able to turn a block of text into an audio file that very closely resembles how a person would read the sentence, as well as software that can take a string of audio and turn it into text. So can take what you're saying to your phone and understand what is actually in that sentence. So a couple benchmarks in the advancement of the technologies that we're using today.
Maybe just to wrap up, everybody download Pangea Chat as soon as you possibly can. It will be the world's language learning application of choice, and it's the best way to learn a language, I can tell you from experience, and Will can as well. So please download it. Please download it as soon as you can. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Herman. I'm from Spain, and I'm a front-end engineer for Pangea Chat.
Hi, I'm Bert. I'm from the Netherlands, and I'm a back-end engineer for Pangea Chat.
So I met Will through Bert, who introduced me, and when I interviewed with him to know what he was up about this application of his, I found the project very interesting and very identifiable with me as to how I learned English in the first place.
So I met Will in a co-work in Barcelona. I was working for a Dutch company and making an app, and Will was using the same technology for Pangea Chat. So I helped out with a couple of questions, and I found the project interesting, so I kept helping out, and now I'm working here.
So Pangea Chat has been really exciting to work with. Me as an engineer, I have studied several natural language processing and data science subjects at the university, and it has always been an interest of mine. So Will and his app has been a really good opportunity to bring that knowledge into the world and to really put to use what I learned at school. So the reason I like working at our app is that it's very technically challenging, since we are doing so much with language and with how we display to the user what they're doing. Me as a college student that has studied extensively data science and natural language processing, it's a good way to integrate and to use in the field what I've learned at school. So Pangea Chat has been really exciting to work with. The reason being that since I studied natural language processing and data science at university, it has been a great opportunity to apply that knowledge in the real world and to really put forward my ideas with another engineer who also shares this interest.
So one of the things I was really missing in regular texting applications, like if you have some friends you met in a different country and they speak a different language, you want to keep chatting with them, and no application really supported that anywhere. So with Pangea Chat you can just chat with them without the barrier of language. That's really nice, and I like to improve that.
What we are doing at Pangea Chat has never really been accomplished before, and we are talking about using natural language processing to create a measure of fluency for how you use a language, using a system that is going to learn for everyone at once what it takes to really understand and use a language in a conversational situation. It's an exciting challenge technically for us to be able to work on this and to be able to expand the frontier of what has been done before. Okay, you can talk more about this as well.
Can I?
Yeah, what do you think, Bor? Is it an exciting challenge?
I mean, you could ask Herman questions about it, and he could ask you questions about it too.
Yeah, it's an exciting and difficult challenge because we're working with a lot of shit. I wanted to say working with a lot of data.
You can say that.
You can say
Yeah?
that.
Yeah.
Just data, not personal data.
So it's an exciting but difficult challenge because we're working with a lot of data, like the messages you send, we get that translated, and we get a lot of information back from the natural processing, and we have to interpret the information we get sent back and make a score out of it and make like the game more gamey. So one of the possibilities in the future would be that we, for example, input a book or a couple books of text, and based on that information we know that like the book is well written in English, so we know this is proper English. And once your sentences or messages to friends get on the same level, we can sort of say that you're fluent in this language. So a question I get asked a lot when I show the app to friends is, when you're talking with friends, how do they see your messages? Because I'm, for example, learning Spanish, so I see the messages in Spanish, but they could be learning French or Chinese. So all the messages that I send in my language, they get translated, and I see them in the language I want to learn. And the same counts for those friends. The messages they receive get translated in the language they want to learn. Done.
Win-win.